me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the Lord.
For all of your personal injury needs, contact W. Mark McKee in Columbia, Louisiana. He can be reached at 318-649-2622. Mark is also a proud supporter of the African American community and can be counted on. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Smoking Glass Hour with Beer and Glass. We are honored to have you as a guest tonight and want to thank each of you for your faithful support. Without further delay, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Beer and Glass. Mr. Glass, take it away.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, July 14, 2016, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Tonight we're going to talk about the continued denial of racism in 2016. But before I get off into the subject matter, I want to thank God for allowing my mother, who I just left her 86th birthday party. Her birthday is tomorrow, but one of my sisters works tomorrow, which is the brains of the family. So she wanted to give it today. I've been the only boy. I always let my sisters deal with those cosmetic issues. And when it comes to the legalities and all those other things that a man is supposed to deal with, I deal with those. So I am very, very happy that I was able, God allowed us to be able to see 86 years young, which is, the Bible tells you 70, but with reasonable health and strength, you can get 4. 4 scores is 80 years plus 6. My mother has received the promise that God has given. So that tells me that something in life she's been doing right. And as a result of her doing right, that's why she is still here today. On the other hand is, every time I turn around, every time I look at Facebook, I see something about racism. And I just happened to make it to my broadcast. And something showed up on my timeline. And as a result of it showing on my timeline, one of my good friends that I have a lot of respect for, but at this moment, I'm pissed because of what he said. And I'm going to read it. I'm giving this idiot president the benefit of the doubt and trying to listen to him talk about fixing the police and people worrying about their children going to get groceries without getting shot. But how about fixing the thugs and worrying about police coming home without getting shot? Or the innocent people not getting robbed or shot by thugs? Obama is the biggest problem with this country. He's divided this country like no one ever. I'm going to have to check out from all media after this. If you don't like the truth, unfriend me. Well, I want to say to that friend, I think you're 100% stupid and ignorant. I have respect for you. Why? Because the racism that you're talking about, it happened because of your forefathers. What your forefathers did with the Constitution of the United States. What your forefathers did with slavery. What your forefathers did with Jim Crow. So don't you try to blame this one individual for all the problems that your forefathers caused. And it appears that you still have the stinking thinking mentality that they had, which is a problem we have in this country. How in the world do you expect Barack Obama to stop what 43 predecessors couldn't stop. If it sounds like I'm upset, yes, I am, because I have respect for this person. So you see what racism is all about. You see these coded words, thugs. You see these coded words, thug. Fixing the police. Well, what about me going home as an innocent individual? What about me and my friends that look like me driving down the road who have to worry about somebody stopping us for no damn reason? So you want to get angry, all of us are angry. So before we get off into all this, I want to set the record straight. I'm coming unapologetic. I'm not apologizing for anything that I'm saying or anything that I'm going to say, because it is decent and in order. It is the truth according to what reality is, not the truth according to what you want it to be or what you think it should be. So here we are, once again, talking about Ray. And by the way, he was an Anglo-Saxon. So you see, people have deeply rooted feelings that sometimes they come out when the pressure is put in the pipe to burst. So when we talk about racism, you know, how can this president be idiot? How can you not be idiot for calling this man an idiot because you feel that he can stop police brutality? You feel that he can stop people in the street shooting. Well, I didn't see you asking George Bush to do this. I didn't see you asking Ronald Reagan to do this and all those other Republican presidents who happen to look like you. So don't try to blame this one black man. Because see, when you guys blame him, I feel like you're trying to blame me as well, because some of the things that he do, I feel the same exact way. So here we are, once again. We're talking about racism. We're talking about racism. In 2016, we're talking about racism. Well, when Francis Scott Key wrote, Land of the Free and Home of the Brave, well, ask yourself, were the slaves free when he wrote that? Hell no, they wasn't free. So if they wasn't free, that means that that particular passage was not for people that look like me. So when you talk about this Constitution of the United States, liberty and justice for all, did that include us? No, because we had 1954 Brown versus Board of Education. When you look at Jim Crow still existed. When we were forced to come over here, 3/5 of a whole man. So don't you come talking about this one man divided the country. Hell, the country been divided since the inception of this country. So here we are. Yes, I'm preaching. I'm preaching the truth according to how I see it. If you don't like it, well, you can unfriend me on Facebook. You don't have to listen to this broadcast, because our goal is to simply to try to make a difference. If Barack Obama was doing racist stuff, guess what? I would be against Barack. If my friend Pastor A.F. Riggins, who's on the line, was talking about racism against other people, guess what? I would be on him. Because you know what? I don't call a spade because of a color. I call a spade because of right versus wrong. I don't care who you are, what color you are, where you come from. So at the end of the day, you need to watch what you say, because you're wondering why these people on the streets doing what they're doing. Because you know what? An old dog is tired of getting his ass beat. An old dog is now retaliating. Like Malcolm X said, the chickens are now coming home to roost. You are reaping what you have sown. So tonight, we're going to do like mainstream media is afraid to do. We're going to talk about the continued denial of racism in 2016. And if you thought racism had died, then you are stupid. S-T-U-P-I-D. Yes, you are stupid and you're ignorant, because it never died. Because one man that was Anglo-Saxon and African-American happened to get elected, you think it was gone? Well, how many would you accept if your kid was another color and they came home with somebody that wasn't their color? I bet you'll have a fit then, wouldn't you? So don't come talking about this idiot president. At the end of the day, when the smoke clear and the dust settle, it ain't about it. And I don't care who you are or where you come from. I'll sit down and talk with you. I'll sit down and debate my point, and you can debate your point. But it's one thing that I don't tolerate from anybody. And if you consider yourself to be my friend, then you cannot be a racist. You cannot accept and or tolerate racism. As a matter of fact, you can't even be silent on racism around me, because guess what? I'll check you. I'll challenge you. So at the end of the day, when the smoke clear and the dust settle, I'm what you call a warrior. I'm what you call somebody who's not afraid to talk about the truth. I don't need to calm down because I'm calmed down. I'm very much in control of what I'm doing. I'm very much in control. This is passion that you hear. So at the end of the day, I know we got Pastor Riggins out there. I know he's blessing this. I know we got Paula out there. I know we got Debbie out there. I know we got Vanessa out there. And hopefully some of the others will join us. Ongerio just messaged me and told me from Little Rock, Arkansas, that he won't be able to join tonight, which is fine. Dave Lamont messaged me and told me that he had a severe throat ache or something to that effect. You know, again, I'm giving this idiot president the benefit of the doubt and trying to listen to him talk about fixing the police. How can he fix the police? And people worrying about their children going to get groceries without getting shot. What about Pastor Riggins and I worried about driving our vehicle down the road and getting stopped? But how about fixing the thugs and worrying about police coming home? Man, you got to be crazy. Now here we are. Overt racism is a public and conscious act. And guess what? It is intended to harm or damage a person or a group of people of another race, specifically because of the race of the victimized person or group of people. So we're talking about overt and covert. I'm going to bring Pastor Riggins in here shortly, but before I do that, just because I need to be revealed, I'm going to ask the administrator if they will play that Martin Luther King opening. I think it's about a minute and some odd seconds, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to get over to the show. Martin Luther King, I've seen the promised land. Play that for me one time and we'll be right back. If you're on the line, just hold on.
Somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest for rights. So just as I say we aren't going to let it a water hose is turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the Lord.
We are back broadcasting live with the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. Tonight, we're talking about the continued denial of racism in 2016. So, once again, we're talking tonight about overt racism, which I just expound some information. Let's talk a little bit about covert racism. Covert racism is a form of racial discrimination that is disguised and subtle, rather than public or obvious. Concealed in the fabric of society, covert racism discriminates against individuals through often unnoticeable or seemingly passive methods that are used. Covert racially biased decisions are often hidden or rationalized with an explanation that society is more willing to accept. These racial biases cause a variety of problems that work to empower the suppressors while diminishing the rights and powers of the oppressed. Covert racism, my friends, often works subliminally, and often much of the discrimination is being done subconsciously. With a strong prevailing history of slavery in these United States of America, racism has always been an issue. It has always been an issue that some and many have tried to denounce. Some and many have been in denial. You see, the enslavement of millions of Africans, along with a huge influx throughout this country's history, has allowed great diversity. But in creating this great diversity has created racial segregation. With the abolition of slavery, you see, different forms of segregation were implemented, including the most recent Jim Crow laws and later American political structures, which we know racial gerrymandering, invited extreme segregation within cities and places, while the white working middle class still was escalated. You see, another problem dealing with covert racism is the presence of inequality versus inequity. Okay, inequality. I want to make sure you understand inequality and inequity. You see, an attempt at overall equality is made by trying to provide everyone with the same opportunities. Inequity occurs when the conditions and opportunities provided are not equal to those of the majority of Americans. I'm going to bring a historian in, a history teacher, A.F. Riggins, Dr. Riggins, who can give us an account of racism in modern day 2016. Then I'm going to bring Vanessa, Deb, and Paula in. Pastor Riggins, are you still out there?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
yes, sir. Riggins, because I respect you, once again, I'm unapologetic because my passion is totally different than my anger. If I was angry, I would be doing something to go to jail. If I'm passionate about something, I'm going to let you know about it. So you heard my passion at the outset. Talk to me, Riggins, about racism, the continued racism in 2016 from your era.
Yes, sir. I came in just a couple minutes late. Who was the person that called President Barack Obama an idiot?
It was a Facebook friend that I saw the comment on my timeline.
Okay, so some of the politicians have been using words similar to that.
Exactly.
And basically what's happening is that the election of President Barack Obama peeled back the skin that was already there, peeled back and exposed racism that still has been festering ever since the marches of Dr. King. What happened? Dr. King died, Robert F. Kennedy tried to turn it to a march of poverty. Well, the poverty is part of racism, but a lot of people in poverty, black and white, Hispanic, and Asian. So it's kind of masked the racism that was there. And as soon as President Barack Obama was elected president of the United States, it did open up that people were upset that this happened. They brought our country back. And they made a conscious effort and said that the moment that he became president of the United States, that he's not going to do anything that he tries to do, is going to make sure that he will fail at it. And because of that, everybody's going to take sides and blame it on him, but all he did was expose was already there. them being coming from, just like if African American male or female is a position at a job, and everybody on the job don't like the fact they got the job, they try everything they can do to expose that person, expose what's wrong about the fact that person has a job, and racism shows up overtly, which already fits that comfort. And so that's what I saw in America now. And when President Trump was not able to win in 2012, they doubled down on it. And gerrymandering continued until 2014. Made sure they got back every seat they could in the Senate, got back every seat they could in any houses in the state, got all the governorships they could, and then we ran 2016. And that's why we have this presumptive nominee, Donald Trump, based on the fact that racism has failed and it's on his head down the state. That's what I believe right now.
So Riggins, let me ask you this. How is it that Donald Trump, who has been identified by some of his own colleagues, how is it that Donald Trump can get up and say whatever it is that he wants to say, and the president gets up here as eloquent as any of the 43 predecessors have ever done, and talk about racism that none of these other 43 have ever done? And by the way, Ruth Bader Ginsburg should have never apologized to Donald Trump for saying what she said, because he said some worse things and has never even considered to apologize. And this is one of the problems that I have with Democrats and the Democratic leaders in the Democratic Party. You say things and then you backpedal. You say things and then you run. Republicans say whatever it is they want to say and they keep marching. Talk to me, Pastor Reagan. Why is it that Trump can say what he want to say, but if you and I say what we want to say, they try. They can say what they want to say about me. You can't label me anything. I label myself. So how is it that he can do it and other people can't?
Two answers. Let me go first deal with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Alito sat inside of his chambers of the Congress when President Obama was speaking and hollered out something in the middle of the deal, and nobody dealt with it. Scalia would even go to the speech one time,
right? And
no one dealt with it. But what Ruth did, what Ginsburg did was this: some people said she knew she was going to have to apologize about it. So instead of asking permission, she said it and turned around and apologized. Now, she never apologized to Trump. She didn't apologize to Trump. She apologized that she said it, that she had no business saying, like saying as a judge, she shouldn't say it. She's not taking back her words, but she shouldn't even have to apologize that she said it. But they're making a big thing out of it to try to use it against. She don't want it to become a thing they use against Clinton, saying that she's disrespecting Trump. I understand what she's trying to do with that, but she shouldn't have never even apologized for it. I'm concerned. Second thing is this: the reason why Trump can say what he says, and President Barack Obama can't, they won't listen to it, it's called white privilege. That's part of racism that you always understand. That there's always going to be white privilege in the United States until that is dealt with. We're going to always have racism. It's going to be white privilege against the African Americans, white privilege against the Asian Americans, white privilege against the Hispanic Americans, white privilege against the Middle Eastern. Any person of color. Remember, Anglos are 1/3 of the world. 2/3 of the world are people of color. In America, Anglos dominate. In Great Britain, Anglos dominate. And it's the only place where they can have what they call white privilege. But Donald Trump comes and says, he says, I love the uneducated. Why? Because white privilege will let him be able to talk to the uneducated, tell them anything he wants to tell them, and they're going to believe it. He will not show us his taxes because Donald Trump is not worth $10 billion. He might be worth $10 million. He will not show it, but white privilege let him get away with it because folks know. Even right now, they investigate. They say there should be an investigation that he's misused campaign funds. So he's suing a staffer $10 million, trying to make them be quiet because the guy's trying to tell that Donald Trump misused funds. Any other person, they'll say, wait a minute, this campaign is in right now. We put the FBI and the CIA to investigate them. It's called white privilege. And that's why you're so upset and so passionate. That's why I'm so passionate. Every day I'm pushing everything I can to let folk know we let him become president of the United States. You think they're shooting in the street. You think that we have inequities and inequality. We will have more than we can even handle. And it will be by executive order. It'll be by, and if he wins, I mean, he'll win the Congress too. It'll be by law. And we'll be set back to the 1940s, 1950s in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pastor, you're exactly right. I know you got to fade in and out. Let me go to this right here. We know that covert racism uses what we call discursive repertoires to perpetrate racism and to suppress the racialized groups. Okay, the white majority is afraid of saying the wrong thing and being labeled as racist. So they confine themselves to the social circle, like the country club, they are most comfortable in, an all-white one. Okay? This is especially true for the older generation. Okay? This also translates to the division of neighborhoods into school districts that avoid integration, that end up investing on the whiteness of their neighborhoods. The wealthy also controls some of these divisions, which results in the minorities being excluded due to the low levels of income in most minority neighborhoods. Okay? The residential and social segregation of whites from blacks in the United States creates a socialization process that limits white chances for developing meaningful relationship with blacks and other minorities. Okay, the segregation that we're talking about tonight, experienced by whites from blacks, fosters segregated lifestyles and leads them to develop positive views about themselves and negative views about blacks. Do you agree with that assessment or do you disagree? Pastor Riggins, if you're still out there. He may have faded out. Let me go to...
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, what was the question again, sir? I was fading out, so I had to try to switch over.
Okay. We're talking about the aspect of covert racism. The segregation experienced by whites from blacks fosters segregated lifestyles and leads them to develop positive views about themselves and negative views about blacks. You agree with that assessment?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. And even to the fact that blacks get negative views of themselves also. Mm-hmm. If you know how they use the studies where they try to show you the black doll and the white doll and they ask the kids which one is supposed to be good, what's supposed to be bad. Mm-hmm. And so they always make everything to be, like Muhammad Ali says, everything black is bad. The night is dark is bad. Black is bad. The black knight versus the white knight. No, KNIGHT. Everything seems to be bad, so there's a subconscious ideal in your mind that anything that's white or anything that's light is good, anything that's dark or black is bad, and so then you set up this whole concept to say that, like, if they say it, it must be right, if we say it must be wrong. And how dare you even contradict the belief systems they're putting in place. And that's what we have a problem with a lot of times.
You're right, Pastor, and I wrote the other night, everybody can't be wrong all the time, and you're right all the time, America. So, Vanessa, let's switch over and talk about this covert and overt operation regarding racism. Vanessa in Houston, Texas, do you experience this or have you seen it, not just on social media, but have you actually seen it or dealt with somebody who has specifically dealt with this, and what was the reaction and how did you get from one end to the other with regards to dealing with? Because let me put it this way. I was just sitting there talking to my mother, and what bothers me is the same thing that she had to go through 86 years ago. The same things that my sisters had to go through. One is 62, would be 63, one is 61, and the other one is 53. The same things that they had to go through. Now, my daughter who is 24, my daughter who is 14, A.F. Riggins, your son and daughter Vanessa, Dale, Paula, your kids, they're going through the same thing in a different manner. Vanessa, how do you deal with covert and overt racism?
I'll put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Put it out there to whoever's putting it out to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be fired, God, because of overt and covert racism. and I let the companies know that the difference between my black skin and the white skin that you got in charge.
Hey, Vanessa, I think you may have us on speakerphone. If you do, you can tell the distance between you and the phone. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, do you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I call out any kind of racism. And like I said, I've been fired from a job before because of it, but I stood my ground because anytime I see that my white supervisor is trying to do something to me because of my black skin, it's not going to happen. You can fire me. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. I went to EOC behind it, and I won. So the thing is, you're not going to do this to me, and I know you're doing it to me. You can be as covert as you want to be, because I'm not stupid. I'm 60 years old, and I know racism when I see it. So they hated my guts, but I don't care about you hating my guts.
Because they do anyway.
It's right and wrong is wrong.
Right.
Yeah, you do. You hate us anyway. Difference do it make.
Right.
You can't do anything right in your eyes. So the thing is, I'm not going to knock myself out trying to be your house nigga. I'm going to let you know that I'm not going to do it.
Right.
So you can fire me, you can do whatever you want. But yeah, you have to call out racism when you see it. Especially on the job.
Right. Exactly. And we know, Vanessa, that most people, regardless of black or white, they are afraid to deal with it because it messes up what they may or may not eat at the lunch table from an economical standpoint. Debbie, when you're out there and you have experienced the covert and overt racism from your counterparts, now that it's consciously out there now that you've been a part of this broadcast, and you know that people have passion and they still love you even though you look totally different than them, how do you go about defending against covert and overt racism?
I'll tell you what, Baron, and this is the honest truth. I'm not really in a position where I really have to do that because I am so particular about the people that I associate myself with that I'm usually not in positions where I have to deal with it much.
Okay, well, let me throw you a curveball then. Let me throw you a curveball. You're on social media. You see a multitude of people. When you see covert and overt racism there, how do you deal with it?
Oh, now, if you're talking about social media and, like, connections outside of my circle here at home...
What I'm doing is...
you've got to call them out on it.
Right, and what I'm doing, Deb...
And you have to educate them.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, what I was saying was, I'm not trying to pin you down on it, but I find it very strange for anybody in America to say that they haven't crossed racism specifically, or somebody who has dealt with it that have contacted them about it. It's almost unimaginable for me to believe that anybody has not experienced this or know somebody who hasn't experienced. So I know that everybody's on social media. All you got to do is go out there on your timeline right now, or somebody else. You're going to see it. So when you see it, let me put it that way, or if you have seen it, or if you were to see it, how would you deal with it?
I absolutely call it out. I mean, and yeah, I have been, I've been in situations here and there where I've come into contact with it, like outside of my regular life. And in fact, I just recently was in a conversation with my sister about the campaign and going to Philadelphia and things. And thankfully, I found out that they are not voting for Trump. I was really happy about that. They can't stand him. But I know that I think that they sometimes feel like that their jobs have been placed at stake and things because of the affirmative action movement and because of the immigrants and things like that. And the other day, I kind of got into it with her, or got on her about it. And I explained to her, I said, look, I kind of explained to her, it's like, you don't understand, and you're just now starting to see it because you're beginning to be oppressed now, too. You've been kicked out of the middle class. But this is how they started off with the minority communities and the African-American communities. And they have kept them financially down in poverty, and they keep pushing them down and taking away their rights slowly. And now they're starting to move into your circle, and now you're starting to get outraged about it. And I'm hoping that expands her mind on that, and she sees that a little clearer. Because now she's starting to experience that also from the government and in different areas. So I definitely talk about it, and if I'm in a situation where I need to, I will definitely call out on it because it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever. I mean, it's ridiculous. We live in the 21st century. We shouldn't even be having to have these conversations now. We should be one-point people. I was watching the news the other day where the son of the man in Baton Rouge, the 15-year-old, I was so impressed with him. He said, we need to come together on this. And he said, we are one people. This is from a 15-year-old. We have raised our children right. And I'm hoping that we continue to do so. And as they start growing into this, we'll see this diminish more and more. But we're having to fight people that are stuck in it, stuck in this cycle, that were raised in a cycle. And that's a difficult thing.
Okay. Let me ask you, Paula, the same question. When you've been faced with it, directly or indirectly, how did you deal with it, and what would you do now, knowing what you know, to try to get over that or overcome that by trying to show a person they're wrong and turn it into a right?
Well, I come from really a whole different situation, Baron. I grew up in the inner city, and really I went to school with all through grade school, all through high school. The friends that I played with when I was little were black, and my parents would have beat the crap out of us if we ever used the N-word or even acted like we were better than anybody else. So I was raised different than that. I grew up in a different situation. Like I said, I was raised multiculturally with Mexicans and blacks and whites. And so when I grew up, it was like nobody was really different than anybody else. None of us had any money. And in the high school that I went to, this is kind of funny, we had an all-black basketball team. We had a great basketball team, but it was funny because we all had white, blonde cheerleaders. And we went out. We used to go out after the games and go to this pizza place. And at the time, we all had fake IDs, and we'd drink beer and eat pizza. And the coach actually, in my high school, actually came up to us girls and said, you girls, it doesn't look good for you to go out with those black guys after the game. And we were just like, what? Those are our friends. Are you kidding me? We were mad. I mean, we were really mad. And so I do call people out on racism. I really do. And my ex-boyfriend, which, honest to God, I'm really glad we're exes now, because he was so bigoted and so racist. And when Obama would come on TV, he would walk out of the room and say, that dumb nigger doesn't know what he's talking about. And I would just go through the roof. And some of his, actually all of his friends were that way. And that was in a different town. That was in a place where, honest to God, really no black people live. Mm-hmm. And I just grew up differently than that. Mm-hmm. And I do call people out on it. I don't think it's right. And where I live now, there are white people and there are black people, and when you talk to people, everybody's nice. I mean, there's not tension where I live, and I'd say it's about half black and about half white in the apartment complex where I live now. And if you smile at people and say hi and what's your name and what's your dog's name and that sort of thing, it just doesn't occur to me to be aware even. Well, I'm aware that they're black and I'm aware that I'm white, but I have never felt like a white privileged girl. And I have never felt that with Mexicans. I mean, when I grew up, I thought Mexicans were white. It's funny. But one time, and this is funny, because we used to invite the black kids in our school to our parties, and there were groups, of white kids and black kids, because some of us lived in different neighborhoods. I went over to a guy's house one time, and they had like 8 locks on the door. And I'm like, what is that about? And anyway, we got my boyfriend and I got invited to a party at a black kid's house. And we went, and we were the only white people there. And that's when I learned that I really couldn't dance. And I had no rhythm. And but I think I felt for probably the first time what it must have felt like for black people to be in a mostly white situation. Mm-hmm. And it was a different experience for me. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, I know I have gotten jobs because I've been white. I know I have been more privileged because I'm white.
Right.
There was one time I was driving. Remember we were talking about Paseo the other day being a poor black neighborhood? Mm-hmm. Well, I was driving down the Paseo once, and it was about 20 years ago. Remember when Tone Loc was really big? Mm-hmm. And I was in my little white car in my little white Prelude, and I had a job in sales, and I was wearing a suit, and I've got blonde hair, and I'm by myself, and this car next to me, we were at a stoplight, and they had their big speakers booming in the back, and boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. Well, I had a kick-ass stereo in my little car, and I put my Tone Loc tape into the cassette player, and I turned it up as loud as it would go. And I rolled down the windows, and I looked over at him, and we both started laughing. Mm-hmm. Right. They could have shot me.
Right.
But I knew they wouldn't.
Exactly. And that brings us to this issue of you knew they wouldn't, so you can go ahead on and do what you're doing. Those others who we see that are fighting back, that are retaliating, they too know that they can do it and nothing is going to happen. I think Nikki is out there. Let me bring her in. Nikki, I know you joined later because I was informed. Have you been able to pick up on any of the conversation we're talking tonight about the continued denial of racism in 2016? We already know from your Facebook page, you don't have a problem calling anybody out on their wrong. And you try to do it as eloquently as possible. But why do you feel it's continued in the process or continued to be in the state of denial when there are case after case after case after case? Even the United States Senator Scott from South Carolina came out and said he's even been stopped, even with his United States Senate lapel on, at least 7 times, and sometimes within the same brief period of time. So how do you deal with this, Nikki? when you're dealing with covert and overt racism?
I not only feel myself to confront it, I bring it up. I had about 3 different.
Hey, Nikki. Nikki, I'm not sure if it's you. We got some back noise or some feedback. I'm not sure if it's you, but I just want to inform you. If it is, you may want to try, and I can bring you back in. But go ahead.
Is that better?
Yeah. Well, there's still noise.
No, it's just that it's not lined up.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
What I wanted to say, I don't only confront it. I think I use my social media, and I'll post everything, the videos of the shootings, everything, is a means to try to educate, okay, or make aware, or people that may not be interested may deny. I think the denial is enormous. And I had 3 different conversations yesterday, and I brought up the police killings because I wanted to engage. And the 3 different times, the perception, okay, one was Asian, one was, and 2 white, is the perception, just as Pastor Riggins, I heard him, talked about, the black community is shiftless, doesn't work. Actually, the Asian man said, well, blacks are lazy. The white woman pretty much implied the same thing, and she and I really got into it. It was a neighbor, and she was telling me her boss was black, and it just was so that there was no opportunity. So
hey, Nikki, let me give you a minute because I know what you're saying has value, and there's a tremendous amount of back noise in the back. So let me give you a minute, then I'll come back to you if that's okay, because it's severe back noise. Let me go back to Vanessa, and I'll come back to you, Nikki. I'll give you time. Vanessa, so it appears that we're still at a stalemate, because if you look at social media now, you look at Fox News, you look at any other media outlet, everybody is always justifying what it is that's happening. Nobody would never accept the responsibility. Nobody would accept that there's a cause and effect. Nobody's accepting the cause. They want to accept the effect and place the blame on people, but nobody wants to deal with the actual problem, which is this country was built and founded on the same thing that we're dealing with now. Vanessa, do you agree with that assessment or not? And if so, expound on it.
I agree, because they don't accept it, because that means that they're going to have to accept responsibility and say that they did something wrong. They don't want to be wrong. They'll die first. For them to say that, it's like when we say silence is accepted. To them, admitting that racism exists and that, they've done things to us, they're not going to say that. That's why they fight it so much, because that would mean that you have to admit to your guilt, and they don't want to do that.
Right.
Barrett, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you now, Nikki. Yeah, let me let Vanessa finish. Then we'll bring you back. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Okay.
That was pretty much it. When you have to make them accept their guilt and accept their responsibility, because you always hear, some people say, well, my people didn't have slaves, and, that was 500 years ago, and, you black people, you always pulling the race card, and, well, we don't pull the race card. The race card is already there. It's always been there. We don't pull the race card. It's always in our face. Mm-hmm. When you keep saying that, it's because you're not empathetic to what we're going through. When you got this and you can vote it, you black people, I hear that all the time. Mm-hmm. And I can come back and say, well, you white people, don't want to admit to what you've done. And I don't mean all white people. I mean racist white people. But I'm not a racist. I have 2 black friends. But you got okay. You just proved to me that you're racist. Or they'll call us racist. We can't be racist, dear. We don't own anything. We don't oppress people. We don't even have it in our hearts to oppress people. We're not going to, because they're so afraid that we're going to do to them what they've done to us.
Okay.
One of their biggest fears. They fear unity. But the real unity that they fear is everybody. Black, white, Hispanic, Oriental. If we all got together, that's what they don't want. That's why they keep a division between everybody.
Absolutely.
If you're too dumb to see that, and if you're too stupid to see that, and to see that they're playing everybody. They're playing everybody. They're not just playing black people. They're not just, they oppress the hell out of us. But in the meantime, because they hate us worse than they hate the rest of them.
Exactly.
It's the money. Yeah, so it's all about power. They have to have that power. They don't want to relinquish that power. They don't want to share that power. And they don't want to admit that they made us almost powerless.
Correct. Come on back in, Nikki, and finish up what you were saying, because I know you're anxious to talk. Come on in.
Hey, Vanessa.
Hi, Nick. How are you? I'm fine.
I want to go to what Vanessa's saying and the collective guilt and the slavery. First of all, I think that Americans are so damn ignorant of white America is so ignorant of its history, it doesn't even know how long slavery lasted. It doesn't know when. It just knows that somehow in the Civil War, they were freed. I heard that yesterday. And have no idea what Jim Crow was, have no idea. There's this place, there's this vacuum from freedom of slaves to civil rights. There's this 100-year vacuum, okay? Prior to that, I think we all know that in 1776 they got a constitution, but they have no real idea of their history before. They have no idea that the first recorded slave purchase was 1615, and so that went on for 250 years. I think I calculated once, that's about 20 generations, okay? So they really, when you say slavery to a white person, it's some kind of abstract concept. Some guy was on social media yesterday, and there was an incident in a restaurant. I don't know, maybe you posted it, Vanessa, where he said, my ancestors owned yours. And I put a comment, so he's bragging that his ancestors were torturers, murderers, lynchers. He's claiming this as his legacy. This is my family. Traditionally when you're going to talk about your family, there's wonderful legacies that are handed down. This was this man's legacy, and he was bragging. That kind of racist, I don't think anything can be done about. I mean, he's the mob guy. The other thing is so insidious. It's so insidious, and I don't think I've come across many white people, and I go out and engage it. I don't even, at first I used to confront it when I thought, now I'm going to engage it, okay? And I feel compelled to. But the denial and the perceptions and I call it, you've heard me, Baron, it's DNA racism. It's this to the bones of these people. And there's always in this, now the one thing I cannot be accused of is playing the racist card, I've had some good names though, but I cannot be, so when you try to, even in a really, like in a discourse or in a conversation, try to really enlighten someone with facts, okay? And the position I take too is the causes, I'm heinous that the policemen were killed, but let's look at the underlying causes and conditions, okay? The why of this, the why. You can very rarely break through, and people that I've even thought, were more enlightened, there's a certain point you hit and you cannot get deeper. And It's a lack. I have a Facebook friend, I hope she's listening in tonight, Virginia. She calls it lack of love and lack of care. And it's this lack of empathy, it's this inability to put themselves in the other man's shoes to maintain that white supremacist position. I'll hear things like I heard yesterday. Well, my boss is black. So that tells me that anybody can come out of poverty. And I said, really? I said, have you any idea what percentage of the black community live in inner cities with no property taxes coming in, with no social services, with crumbling schools? And at that point, I had lost her. She was gone. Because they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear. It doesn't affect me. It's something over there. If I can look and see a couple of black people in my, not even necessarily my social circle, at work, I read an article that said affirmative action really, although it's helped, it hasn't, because it gives whites the perception that, well, look, I've got a black boss, there's a black worker in my, and with that, they stay with this perception that it's like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, It's a DNA racist country. It's bad. It's bad.
So what I'm hearing, not here, but what I'm hearing on television and social media and everywhere else. Okay, if the oppressor feels that everything is okay, and the oppressed are still talking about the same thing that has been talked about for hundreds of years, it appears to me that we're still at a stalemate. Debbie, Paula, Nikki, Vanessa, do you agree or disagree with that?
I agree. No, I agree too.
Well, and which brings me...
I agree with the difference.
Right, which brings me to this point. If, I just wrote, if not a one of the previous 43 Anglo-Saxon presidents ever had the courage or the audacity to host town hall meetings and talk specifically about racism, if the president of these United States, the first African-American president who has taken steps to talk about this, and when he takes steps to talk about them, he's denounced, he's vilified, he's maligned, and he's hated even more. So if he's doing what it takes to start the conversation, and others didn't do anything close to starting, I guess what I'm saying is I'm confused. One of you guys help. I see Aaron Hopkins just joining. Somebody help me out. If you're doing right and they're saying it's wrong, but you're doing wrong and everybody agrees with that, how do we move forward? Anybody?
Aaron, he's being vilified because he's a black man. Because the resistance to change is incredible. A white man is not going to do it. He's going to risk the wrath and the vote appeal and all of that type of thing of the white voter. Okay? A black man doing it, it's called the racist card. It's called you only care about blacks. The same charges that are put to Black Lives Matter, color of change. They've been trying to criminalize them incredibly. When it's the only way it's going to be taken. It has to be taken because it's not going to be given that assistance. It will not. I think in all of this since the Texas to the studio Casalandro and Alton and then the police killings, I think there's a recognition that it's a crisis point, and I think all the thumbs are being thrown up from the table, in the hope that the thumbs will be picked up and the white man can come back in with some kind of solution and get some order, but no justice. I think that change is, but there's, so President Obama speaking about it, it's like the Rashad Robinson color change standing. He's going to be vilified for it, and that is the condition of the country. This is no accident. This is America.
Okay. Aaron Hopkins, you're in now. talk to us about the continued denial of racism in 2016.
Baron, first of all, I apologize for coming on so late. I've been a little bit detained with my vehicle being down, but the whole in the context of the statement, continual denial or continuous denial means it's actively, right now as we speak, still being denied. So, and as I heard you talking, anytime a discussion, anytime a point, statement, even an illustration via a video camera, when you can point it out so clearly that even small children notice the difference in the treatment, the difference in the status, the difference in just rights and privileges, then for it to continue tells us that even in the statement of all men created equal, if that's a part of the American dream, then it's also a part of the fantasy. Because there are no, what I would call, actual movements from a political standpoint. I'm not saying, I'm definitely not talking about the grassroots level, because if we probably wouldn't even be on the line if certain things weren't being forced right now to be revisited. My point is, when it's so crystal clear and then you have denial as if it does not exist, the only way for me to take that, the language that speaks to me is there is not an intention for what's called equality in this country, nor has it been from its inception. And I think what's unfortunate is now people are just now coming to terms with that. So it means that individually, when I make a statement such as Black Lives Matter, the opposition that comes, which is not even a dignified, comeback to say, well, all lives matter. As if, by making that statement isn't just pointing out what's already obvious. If it's obvious to somebody that is not of my culture, if they can explain it when I don't have to, then that means it's just as clear as it is, as my voice being heard right now. So it's an intentional denial. It's different when you deny something that you may not be in understanding of, or you just don't know all the circumstances behind it. But that is absolutely not the case.
Right. So Aaron, when you are faced with covert and overt racism, whether it's Facebook, social media, your job, or just out in a social gathering, how do you deal with it, and what would you like to see done to try to move from where we're at now, still 400, 300, 200, 100 years later, 21st century, we're still dealing with the same issues? What would you like to see done?
So what I would like to see done, Baron, is, it's to me, it's all about accountability. As an adult male, and I'm gonna go down this list. As an adult black male, as an adult middle-aged male, there's different levels of responsibility that even if I would like to, I cannot avoid them. I cannot, escape. Now, of course, it may put a dent or a blemish on my character if I made that choice to do that. And again, so we're talking about choices that people make that they have to understand whether they want to be held accountable or not. There's absolutely consequences that follow, and then other people, when they attempt to point out the consequences and or save other people from the consequences of some who are ignorant, then even that person who is a lot of times innocent. Nikki is a good example of this, Baron. I think you and I, we talk quite often about Nikki. If the average person, especially white, now Nikki, please don't, I know you're not going to get offended, but hear me out on this. If the average white person took half the courage that you have in pointing out the wrong, regardless of its source, meaning that when it's pointed out, then it can be dealt with properly. If you're denying it, then the intention is to never even deal with it. So, and we commend you quite often, Nikki, but I don't want to put you on a pedestal. But what I'm saying is, when it's so widely known and seen clearly, and then yet denied, then there's no way to not expect there's going to be continuous friction. There's going to be violent breaks. There's going to be people's lives taken where the value is not assessed the same as it is a person who didn't grow up in the urban areas of this country. So I've said this all the time, Baron. It's an issue of the will. We have free will. So if we continue to refuse to do what it's going to take to fix these problems, then the consequences that come, well, it's almost like we're saying, just bring on the consequences. That's almost how it comes across when we can watch a video of a man being shot 4 times in the chest in compliance with what the officer asked. But yet, he didn't make it home that night.
Right. And I'll tell you. Yeah, go ahead, Aaron. Finish up. I thought you was finished. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, man.
I was going to say I had just seen where Roland Martin was basically, and it's documented, educating Wendy Williams and her audience on HBCUs and police brutality, whatever. And Wendy asked him the question, well, what are you telling the young generation? And simply put, Roland is saying, just like Cornell West and the rest of them, just try to make it home. Okay, now,
exactly.
Just trying to make it home is as vague can be, because nobody has to tell their son or daughter just to make it home, because the code is already there. The code of ethics is already there. Paula stated she know that she got a job because of who she was. So that code is the privilege. Okay, the free pass that they say that people have as a result of affirmative action. Well, you balance it out with privilege. So I'm still stuck on, and I guess I'm not educated or qualified enough to figure this out. I want to know if the left is still pulling and the right is still pushing. How do you get to the middle of the road where everybody can come to a consensus and realize that a wrong is a wrong? You don't have to justify this wrong when you're not involved. I'm just not understanding, and I'm very perplexed, because, again, my mother's 86, my sisters are 60, my sisters are 53, I'm right behind her, my daughter's 24, my other daughter's 14. The generation is still dealing with the same thing. So can somebody on this line please educate me as to which way we should go to make a difference when it comes to racism? Anybody?
Can I say something very real quick?
Go ahead.
Brought up Wendy Williams now. Now, this is an excellent example. And I'm going to say this, and I don't care if I'm the only one who feels this way. I'm not a fan at all of Wendy Williams.
Neither am I.
When she was challenged and saw and accepted the fact that she was wrong, she reached out to Roland Martin.
Exactly.
Invited him on her show, publicly apologized.
Right.
And publicly stated that she wanted her, not just herself, but her listening audience to be educated by what Roland presented, which were facts.
Exactly.
Now, this is why this is so important. Because she has influence on the people who watches her show.
Exactly.
So when she makes a statement that is totally false, but has enough character to allow the person who publicly debated her and called her out and showed her where she was wrong, but she opened that door to be, one, correct, two, to apologize for her wrong, then if you watch what happened from that point until now, I think that was a tremendous step forward. Now, we need many steps forward like that, but that example to me, Aaron, is what, we don't even have that on the level where people in politics want that, because we can point out a million errors that everybody can see clearly, just like that.
Right, but Aaron,
the of those. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I couldn't hear you because I got a lot of rain in the background, so I didn't know if you was finished. But go ahead, because I definitely don't want to cut you off. Go ahead and finish.
No. I'm almost finished. But the point I'm making, Baron, is in that situation right there, Wendy Williams did what most will not. She set her pride to the side. And she did not have to do that. She could have continued the debate via Twitter, via Facebook, via her show. She could have made statements on her show, and then Roller could fire back on his show. That could have continued from now on.
But Aaron, let me ask you this, because I know you're a fair-minded man. I would venture to say that myself and you, even though we don't like Wendy Williams or her show, we respect her for doing what was necessary to correct a wrong to a right. Am I correct?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, she, I'm going to actually send a letter to her show thanking her for doing that, and I'm going to make it known I'm not a fan. But she gained so much respect just by that act, man. I would feel, less than a human being to sit here and say that she didn't move me to that act.
Right, but Aaron, Vanessa, it takes me back to this. Why does the oppressed always have to be the one to apologize, always give in, always do the right thing, and you still get wrong in return? Why is that?
Because it's been ingrained in everybody to do so.
So if it's ingrained and indoctrinated, Nikki, Deb, and Paula, how do we get the side of the fence that you come from versus the side of the fence that we come from? Because we've done it for many, many weeks. We've talked. We've had very good intellectual conversation. There's never been any major disagreement where there's been a fallout. So if we can do it, why can't everybody else do it?
This is Paula. And, I think that it's ingrained in us when we are little kids. I really do. I think that it's your parents. I think it's your brothers and sisters. I think it's the kids you go to school with. I think it's the way you grow up. And in my mind, poverty and education go hand in hand. Now, if we had good school systems that taught equality in school, and we had desegregated schools, because there are areas of Kansas City where it's all white kids, and then there are areas of Kansas City where it's all black kids, and those schools are falling apart, and they're getting closed down because of the administration and just terrible conditions that they're in. Mm-hmm. And in Kansas City, where I lived, I like living in the inner city, but where I lived, people that were my age, and this was back when I was in my 20s and early 30s, when they started having kids, they moved over to Kansas, where the good schools were. They wouldn't want their kids going to the schools that were in the city, in Kansas City, that were full of black kids.
And that still happens today.
To me, I think that's just what pissed me off, is that every year, even though I didn't have any kids, I voted up the school taxes, because I thought, if the schools were better in Kansas City, if they could attract better teachers, if they could have better programs, if they could integrate better as kids, I think that growing up that way as adults, when they become adults, then there wouldn't be that kind of division. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that, everything's hunky-dory, but I think that it starts when you're little.
Right.
I think it starts the way that you are taught.
Right.
when you're a child.
Come on in, Aaron. Come on.
And
Yeah, Paula. When you finish, I'm gonna let Aaron come on in. Go ahead on, Paula. Finish up.
I'm finished.
Yeah.
No, I'm finished.
I don't want to rush you. Aaron had messaged me, and I was telling him to go to, because I'm having a little trouble hearing because of the rain so hard. So sometimes if I'm butting in, I'm not doing it out of disrespect. It's just I can't I can't dictate when somebody's finishing when in the pause versus when they're actually finished. So pardon me, but go ahead on, finish your point, Paula, because I want to make sure you finish it.
All I was saying is I think that when two babies are born together and they're 2 years old and they're playing, they don't know what's white and black. They don't know the difference. They just play together. And I think that it's the way that you're taught. I think it's the way that you're raised. I think it's the schools that you go to. I think it's the church that you go to. I think that you are taught to be racist or not racist.
Come on in, Aaron.
And of course, it's the area where you live, which in my case, I lived in the inner city.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's taught. I don't think that it's a natural condition.
Mm-hmm. Right. Go ahead, Aaron.
That we are taught to be racist.
Okay.
Paula, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, Paula. Let me say this about education. If you were to give, if I was setting up a team of people, regardless of what the goal was, if I had to choose between a person who's highly educated versus a person who has little to no education but has good character, I want those people who are in the South. They're just called good old people. Mm-hmm. You give me those people versus those educated people, and I bet you, whatever we attempt to do will have way more merit and longevity over the educated people with no character. Mm-hmm. So when you say, and I'm not taking away all of what you say, because I agree. But if we're going to talk about the teaching part, as parents, what we so often allow to happen is we put it on somebody else to do the character part along with the actual skill building or skill training education, and then when these things blow back at us, we want to act like we don't know where it comes from. Well, it comes from us not putting the time in to teach right and wrong on every level from the home. And then so it's hard to put facts on top of somebody with no character, because you can be highly educated, which we have that in politics. We have very highly educated people who don't have the character to point out wrong when it's right in front of them, and sometimes their hands are wrapped all around it. That is the difference. So if we're going to talk about education, there's education that exists that is riddled with less than factual history. There's books and publications that are used in the educational system that we all know about and have encountered. Yet, we push education. Well, I want to let's talk about the type of education, because if the education is not vetted and changed, and I'm not talking about reform, because you can reform something with the same element, and you still at some point are going to come out the same way. So unless we start understanding that things are going to have to pretty much be broken down and built up from the ground floor, we're going to be back in the same cycle in another 20 years. We may make some positive steps, but the cycle will come back around if we don't take this thing serious.
Right. That's exactly right. We got about, I'm going to say 10 minutes, because I don't want to go into recording and let everybody lose. I'm going to start with you, Aaron, since you just finished up. What one thing can you offer that you feel a collective group of people, a collective group of diverse people can do to try to start tackling this problem that has existed? We're not going to end it. We're not going to eliminate it, but at least putting a dent in it and talking about it and making it become more visible than people thinking that it has died out? What is that you would like to offer in your own way?
You know, a community, Baron, is comprised of individuals that are supposed to, you know, there's a breakdown. There's an individual, there's a man and a woman that at some point will become man and wife, and they will, you know, have children and start a family. But individually, if I can look at something that I have in my character and or something that I know needs to improve in order for me to be considered a better person, rather than look at, you know, go across the street and look at Baron Glass's fault. If I can improve myself, which if each individual in a small community just took one thing individually and improved on that one thing, in a matter of time you would have a community that is improved. But I think we go outside of self so quickly, and it's easy to do that. But if we learn how to self-improve, and it's not easy to do, but it takes discipline, but the first thing we have to do is acknowledge. And that's why I'm going to be stuck on this thing with Wendy Williams for quite some time, because she could have so easily went around that hard truth.
Right.
But she didn't.
Right. Hey, Aaron, I'll tell you.
That's the right question, Baron.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll tell you, if you don't mind, before sending that, since we are on one accord, I'd like to co-sign that because I know that you and I have the same sentiments, even though we're different. But what we're talking about with regards here, we share the same goal and the same passion. So I appreciate that. And like I said, when you reach out, people reach out to you. And if you continue to pull your arm back, I'm not going to run after you anymore. I'd rather not even deal with you. So if you're out there listening, there are people that's willing to come to the table, but I'm not into begging, and I refuse to beg somebody. So I think we have to move forward.
Absolutely.
If people are wanting to move forward, they can. Vanessa, what would you like to see? What one thing you would like to see?
Well, there's one thing I noticed, that if people stop having so much ego, and, you know, some people hate to admit when they're wrong. It almost kills them to say that they're wrong. Or just like it's hard for people to say, I love you, but they can say, I hate you in a heartbeat. Because there's only 2 times in life, 2 times, that it doesn't matter what color somebody is, that your neighbor is. That's when you're born and when you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
So when they put a graveyard, you don't know if there's a black man next to you. You don't know if there's a Mexican next to you. You don't know if there's an Irish person next to you. When you're in that nursery, you don't know who those kids are. So yeah, it is hard. And I think people actually teach their kids. I used to, I grew up in the 60s. And I had, we had a mixed neighborhood. There was one Hispanic family, but everybody else was black and white. And I used to see kids come on my house and play. And they called me a nigger. When I got it, they were standing outside my door calling my name and come outside and play. Now, I'm a kid. But as I got older, then I realized this is what they were learning at home. But then they came and played with me. But once I got to school, I was somebody different. But when they got back home, I was okay. Mm-hmm. So I knew that there's that mentality there that kids don't understand that they even have. They don't even know why they would go to school and call you a nigger and then come home and play with you all day.
Right.
There's no way. Kids don't know. They don't understand that. So when they go to bed, it's instilled in them.
Right.
And then they start even, somebody's reiterating it to them over and over and over again. It's just like when black people tear each other down. This tears me up when I hear that.
Right.
Because when you hear black people, black people, they like crabs in a bucket. You're the crab because you keep saying that. You keep between your own people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Vanessa. Excellent point. Paula, then Deb, then Nikki, and we're going to close because we're running out of time. I want to give you at least 30 seconds. Paula, what is that you'd like to see happen to try to make this thing better?
The only thing that I would like to see happen to make things better is for people to engage with one another one-on-one. If you get a big group of people that are enraged, like the Black Lives Matter people, they're pissed. And I can understand that. But if you engage with someone on a personal basis, that's over with. That doesn't, you're not there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Deb, talk to me.
Actually, I'm kind of with Paula. I think if people engaged one-on-one a little more, like, they at least stepped outside their box to attempt it, it would kind of set off kind of alleviate those fears a little bit, and so that they can step outside of their box a little more. Now, what I'm talking about is older generations that are set in a way. Outside of that, I think we need to, it's a start for an older generation. I think we really need to start reaching out to a younger generation, though. I really feel that when you go back so far, you've got teachings that are there, and they're going to be hard to get away from those people. We need to really get in and start with my generation and down. And I'm an older generation, but like Gen X and on down, and work on that and help grow that.
Okay.
I personally kind of think if you get too far back in generations, it's kind of a lost cause.
Right. Okay.
I know that sounds hopeless, but that's it.
Okay, Deb. Nikki, we got about 30, 45 seconds. I don't want you to cut off, so speak as fast as you can, but as eloquent, and make sure you get your point out.
I just want to say that I'm sitting here thinking that in 2016, we got to talk about educating whites. We got to talk about not teaching white children. We got to, it's all white. It's a white problem. The fact that we ever had to is quite incredible. Second thing, I think the Wendy Williams model that you're talking about seems to me, I didn't see it, but the woman opened her mind, suspended her thoughts for a minute, heard someone else, admitted she was wrong, apologized, and changed her ways.
Exactly.
South Africa. So it's a minuscule thing of what happened in South Africa. They did it as a nation. And that's the only way. For to open up to and apologize, atone, repent. They're what we know from our Bible, and there will be no way until that begins to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, once again, Nikki, Deb, Paula, Vanessa, Aaron, and Pastor Riggins, we have done exactly what we set out to do. We talked about the continued denial of racism in 2016. I'm seeing a lot of people, a lot of my Facebook associates, friends, or whatever, that are somewhat hypocrites. They talk out of one side of the mouth and they do something different. And I'm going to tell you this. If I see a one-sided person, eventually you're going to be asking, where's Barron? Why? Because I'm going to distance myself from you. It's either you are in it to win it, or you're not in it at all. It's either you're a part of the problem or you're a part of the solution. You can't minimize justice. You can't talk about it today and then tomorrow it's something totally different, or you caving into, you just can't do that. And I guess what I'm saying is you have to stand for something or else you'll fall for anything. Again, tonight we've been talking about the continued denial of racism in 2016. I'm going to say good night, Nikki, Paula, Deb, Vanessa, Aaron, and Pastor Riggins. Good night to everybody.
Good night. Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night.